A poor girl was given a task she could never do, and in her fear she made a deal she would regret. In the end, only one thing could save her, knowing a name. We usually think of Rumpelstiltskin as a bedtime story about a strange little man who turned straw into gold. But this story is far older than people imagine. Older than the Grimms, older than stone castles, even older than written words. Beneath the surface of this tale hides something ancient, stretching back thousands of years. And once you see it, you'll never hear the story the same way again. Before we look at the deeper meaning, let's go through the version everyone knows. Listen carefully, because inside this odd little tale are echoes from the distant past. There was once a miller who wanted to impress the king. So he told a lie, that his daughter could spin straw into gold. The greedy king brought the girl to his castle, locked her in a room piled with straw, and demanded that by morning she produce gold or lose her life. The girl sat and cried. As the night passed, the door opened and a small man stepped inside. He said he could help, but wanted payment. First she gave him her necklace, then her ring. Each night he spun the straw into shining gold, and each morning the king grew more demanding. On the third night, with nothing left to trade, the man asked for something terrible, her first child. Desperate, she agreed. By dawn the room was filled with gold again. The king was so pleased he made her his queen. A year later, she had a baby and had almost forgotten the deal. But the little man returned to claim what she had promised. Horrified, the queen offered him riches and land, but he refused. "A living soul is worth more to me than treasure," he said. Then he gave her one last chance. If she could guess his name within 3 days, she could keep her child. The queen tried every name she knew. She sent messengers across the land, but nothing worked. On the final day, one messenger returned with a strange story. Deep in the woods he had seen a fire. Around it danced a tiny man, singing, "Today I'll bake, tomorrow I'll brew, soon I'll take the queen's child too. No one knows my little game, Rumpelstiltskin is my name." That night, when the man appeared, the queen said the name aloud. He froze, shocked, and shouted, "Who told you that?" Then he stamped the ground so hard he broke through it. In some versions, he even ripped himself apart. This is the story the Brothers Grimm wrote down in 1812. But they didn't create it. They collected tales that had been spoken for generations. Rumpelstiltskin was only one of many. Jacob Grimm himself believed these stories were far older than people thought. This story is ancient, passed down from a time long before history was written. And research suggests Jacob Grimm may have been right. In 2016, scholars from Durham University and the New University of Lisbon used methods from evolutionary biology to test it. They treated folktales like living species, tracing how story patterns spread and changed over time. By comparing thousands of tales from many cultures and languages, they built something like a family tree of folklore. What they found was surprising. The tale we know as Rumpelstiltskin belongs to a group called the Name of the Supernatural Helper. And stories in this category may be more than 4,000 years old. That doesn't mean the Grimm version is from the Bronze Age. It means the structure, the impossible task, the magical helper, the hidden name, appears again and again, in different places, under different names, with the same bones underneath. Which raises the question, why does this pattern echo across so many cultures? And what are we really remembering? Let's look at the act of spinning. In folklore, spinning is everywhere. Sleeping Beauty pricks her finger on a spindle. The miller's daughter spins straw into gold. But in ancient times, spinning wasn't just household work. It was cosmic. In Greek myths, the three fates spun the thread of life itself: your birth, your length of years, and your final breath. The same idea shows up in Norse mythology. The Norns sat at the base of Yggdrasil, the world tree, spinning the fates of gods and humans alike. In the Vedic tradition, reality itself was imagined as a golden woven fabric, thread stretching across the universe, tying everything together. Thread wasn't just a symbol of life. It was life. And gold meant more than wealth, it meant the divine, purity, even immortality. So spinning straw into gold wasn't just a clever trick. It was turning the ordinary into the sacred. Later, this became the idea of alchemy. The mystical art of transforming base matter into something higher. We usually picture alchemy as medieval men in smoky rooms, trying to make gold from lead. But older than that is the idea of alchemy as spiritual change, a reshaping of the soul, of fate, of the world itself. Seen this way, Rumpelstiltskin isn't just spinning. He's doing cosmic work. Some believe that's no accident, that these stories carry memories of knowledge once considered real and dangerous. But where did that knowledge come from? And why, in so many versions, does it carry such a heavy price? Scholars now think that supernatural helper story type may go back over 4,000 years, to the Bronze Age. That was the moment when people first learned to take copper and tin and fuse them into something new, bronze. Imagine being a villager then. A stranger appears, covered in soot, eyes gleaming, holding a blade that cuts stone, or a tool that reshapes the world. To you, he isn't just a man. He's something more. The ability to pull metal from rock and shape it with fire looked like magic. The metalworkers who knew this secret were both honored and feared. They were keepers of power that seemed beyond human. And here's the strange part: many ancient cultures didn't say they discovered metalwork. They said it was given to them. The Book of Enoch speaks of the Watchers, divine beings who came down from the sky and taught forbidden arts, including metalwork. The Bible mentions Tubal-Cain, the first forger of bronze and iron. All across the world, the pattern repeats. In Sumer, Kothar built temples for the gods. Among the Hittites, Hamali worked behind steam and fire. In Norse stories, dwarves forged Thor's hammer deep underground. The Slavs spoke of Sverige, the god of fire and creation. These figures were always the same type, secretive, powerful, and never fully human. They lived in the mountains, spoke in strange ways, and then disappeared without a trace, just like the little man in the story. But what does Rumpelstiltskin really want? Not gold, not power, but a child. Why? In every version of the tale, he never says. Only once does he hint. Something living is worth more to me than all the treasures of the world. We never get a reason, and maybe that silence is the clue. The truth might have been too dark to keep in later versions, softened for children over time. Because in the ancient world, giving up a firstborn was the greatest offering, the highest price. To us, it sounds horrifying. But back then, sacrifice wasn't only about cruelty, it was about giving up what was most valuable in exchange for something sacred. In the Bible, God tests Abraham by asking for his son Isaac. In ancient Carthage and the Levant, archaeologists have found burial sites filled with the remains of infants, believed to be offerings to gods like Moloch and Baal. Again and again, when people begged the divine for help, the price was often the same: a child. And here's something strange. Rumpelstiltskin isn't destroyed by magic or force. He's undone by a name. This may be the oldest part of the story, the belief that names carry power. In ancient Egypt, pharaohs, seen as divine, had not just birth names but secret names, hidden to protect their souls. Without that secret name, carved in tombs or temples, they couldn't exist in the afterlife. To be unnamed was to be erased forever. In Jewish mysticism and Islamic tradition, the names of God weren't simple labels. They were seen as holding creation itself. Too sacred to say out loud, too powerful to use carelessly. Knowing one of these names could change fate, shift reality, or open a door to hidden truth. Even King Solomon is tied to this idea. The Bible calls him wise and wealthy, the builder of the first temple in Jerusalem. But in later mystical texts, his story gets stranger. The Testament of Solomon says he was given a magic ring marked with a divine seal, a ring that let him summon demons. Each time, he asked one question: "What is your name?" Once he knew, he could command them. He ordered them to build, to fetch gold, to serve his will. In this belief, a name isn't just a word. It's a code. A key. A map of who and what a being really is, their power, their weakness. To speak a true name was to unlock it, to control it. Like accessing the blueprint of the soul. So when the girl in the story learns Rumpelstiltskin's name, she isn't just guessing. She's breaking the spell. She's cracking the code. She's doing what Solomon did. Of course, the name itself changed through time. Rumpelstiltskin is German wordplay. It means little rattlestilt. Odd, almost mechanical. Some think it describes the way he moved, or the sound of his work. But across dozens of cultures, one thing stays the same: the helper's name is always strange, always otherworldly. And that's no accident. It echoes an old belief, that gods, spirits, and beings beyond this world spoke in a different tongue. A divine language, not meant for humans. In Indo-European traditions, divine beings didn't speak like us. They sang, they chanted, their words were riddles. And notice this: in almost every version of Rumpelstiltskin, the secret name is revealed through a chant, a rhyme, a song around a fire. That pattern is ancient. Because in old belief, divine speech had real power. Think of Genesis. How does creation begin? God speaks, "Let there be light." And light appears. The act of speaking itself creates. In Egypt, the god Ta shapes the world not with tools, but by speaking it into being. In these traditions, words weren't just communication. They were creation. Language itself was a force that could bend reality. So what was Rumpelstiltskin? A trickster? A demon? A forgotten god? Or maybe a memory of those first fire workers, the keepers of dangerous secrets, beings who gave help, but always for a terrible price. We call it a children's tale today. But the strange name, the gold spun from straw, the demand for a firstborn, these echo very old beliefs. Beliefs in gods who shaped fire, in spirits who spoke in riddles, in secret names that could bind the supernatural. Maybe Rumpelstiltskin isn't just a story. Maybe it's a faded memory of when such beings walked among us. And maybe, just maybe, they never left.